The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as 17-year-old Tommy pushed his cleaning cart down the marble hallway of Riverside Corporate Tower. It was almost midnight and most of the building had gone dark hours. Only a few offices still glowed with light where people worked late into the night. Tommy had been doing this for 3 weeks now. After school, he would rush home and change into his work clothes, then head to the tower to help his father finish the cleaning shift his dad had been the night janitor, here for almost 12 years. Every floor, every office, every restroom, they knew this building like the back of their hands tonight. His father was working on the lower floors while Tommy handled the upper levels. The cartwheels squeaked as he moved from office to office. Empty coffee cups went into the trash, papers were straightened on, desks' floors were vacuumed, and mopped windows were wiped clean. It was repetitive work, but Tommy never complained. He understood that this job paid their rent and put food on their table. His father had raised him alone. Since Tommy was 6 years old, money was always tight, but his dad made sure Tommy had everything he needed for school books, pencils, a decent backpack. Sometimes Tommy would find his father studying his report cards with tears in his eyes. Pride mixed with worry about how they would afford college. As Tommy entered the executive suite on the 42nd floor, he noticed something different. The lights were on in the corner office. Big one with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. That was unusual. This office belonged to the man who owned the entire building. Richard Hartley had never met him, but he had seen his photo in the lobby. A serious-looking man in his 50s. With silver hair and sharp eyes. Tommy hesitated at the door. He could come back later, but his dad had taught him to be thorough and stick to the schedule. He knocked gently on the open door. A voice called out for him to come in. The office was massive, dark. Wood furniture, leather chairs, and walls lined with bookshelves behind a huge desk sat Richard Hartley himself. He was typing on his laptop, but looked up when Tommy entered. Tommy felt suddenly aware of his worn sneakers and faded work uniform. "Sorry, sir," he said quietly. "I can come back later if you are busy." The older man studied him for a moment, then he waved his hand. No, need go ahead and do what you need to. Doy will stay out of your way." Tommy nodded and started his routine. He emptied the small trash bin near the door, wiped down the side table as he worked. He could feel the man's eyes on him. It made him nervous, but he focused on doing a thorough job. His father always said that how you do anything is how you do everything. While vacuuming, Tommy noticed a calculus book sticking out of his backpack. He had brought it to study during his break, though. Vacuum bumped his bag and the book fell out onto the floor. He quickly picked it up, but not before Richard Hartley saw it too. "Are studying calculus, though?" Question caught Tommy off guard. "Yes, sir, advanced placement. I have a test next week." The billionaire leaned back in his chair. "That is impressive. Most kids your age are not working night shifts and taking advanced math." Tommy felt his cheeks warm. "My dad thinks education is important. He wants me to have opportunities he never had." "What do you want?" The question was direct, and Tommy thought about it carefully. "I want to make him proud. Want to go to college and get a good job, maybe help other people the way some people helped us when we needed it." Richard Hartley nodded slowly but said nothing more to me. Finished cleaning and excused himself as he pushed his cart back into the hallway. He wondered why the richest man in the building was working so late. Maybe wealthy people had problems too, just different kinds. Over the next 2 weeks, Tommy saw Richard Hartley 3 more times, always late at night, always working alone in that big office. The second time, the billionaire asked him about school, what subjects he liked, what he wanted to study in college. Tommy answered honestly. He liked math and science. He thought maybe he could become an engineer. The third time, they barely spoke. Tommy cleaned while Richard worked, but when Tommy was leaving, the man stopped him. "Your father should be proud of you. You do good work." The words stayed with Tommy for days. Nobody at school knew about his night job. He kept it private because he did not want pity or judgment, but hearing those words from someone successful made him stand a little taller. The fourth encounter changed everything. It was a Friday night, and Tommy arrived at the tower to find his father sitting on a bench in the lobby. His face was pale, and he was clutching his chest. "Dad." Tommy dropped his backpack and ran to him. "What is wrong?" His father tried to smile, but Tommy could see the pain in his eyes. "Just Some chest pain, probably nothing, but it is getting worse. We need to get you to a hospital. His father shook his head. We cannot afford an emergency room. Visit I will rest this weekend and see how I feel. Tommy felt panic rising in his chest. This was serious. He knew it. Dad, please, I am fine, son. But I do not think I can work tonight. Can you handle the whole building yourself? Tommy looked at his father's saw. The worry lines around his eyes, the exhaustion, the fear. Of course I can. You go home and rest. I will take care of everything. His father gave him the key card and the checklist, then slowly made his way to the bus stop. Tommy watched until he disappeared around the corner. Then he took a deep breath and headed to the service elevator. The building had 45 floors. Usually they split the work. His father took floors 1 through 20. Tommy took 23 through 45, doing everything alone. Would take all night, but Tommy did not hesitate. He started at the bottom and worked his way up. Trash bins were emptied, floors were cleaned, restrooms were scrubbed. His arms ached and his back hurt, but he kept going. By 3 in the morning, he was only on floor 30. His phone buzzed, a text from his father asking if he was okay. Tommy lied and said everything was fine. He did not want his dad to worry. In floor 38, Tommy had to sit down for a moment. His legs were shaking from exhaustion. He thought about cutting corners, skipping some offices no one would know, but then he heard his father's voice in his head. How you do anything is how you do everything. He stood up and kept working. When he reached the 42nd floor, the executive suite, he saw light coming from the corner office. Again, Richard Hartley was there. Tommy almost groaned. He was so tired and dirty he probably looked terrible, but he had a job to do. He knocked and entered. When called, the billionaire looked up from his computer. Then his eyes narrowed. You are here late. Where is your father? Tommy hesitated, then decided on the truth. He is not feeling well. I'm covering his shift. All of it by yourself? Yes. Sir Richard Hartley stood up and walked around his desk. He studied Tommy carefully. How long have you been working tonight? Since 9? What time is it now? Almost 4 in the morning. And how many floors do you have left? 7. The older man was quiet for a long moment. Why are you doing this? Tommy met his eyes. Because my father needs this job. Because we need the money. Because someone has to do it. And if I do not, he might lose everything he worked for. He paused. And because it is the right thing to do. Something shifted in Richard Hartley's expression. Sit down. He gestured to one of the leather chairs. Tommy shook his head. I cannot. Siri need to finish. The billionaire walked to a small refrigerator in the corner and pulled out a bottle of water. He handed it to Tane. Drink this steak. 5 minutes. The floors will still be there. Tommy was too tired to argue. Sat and drank the water. It was cold and refreshing. Richard Hartley sat across from him. Tell me about your father. So Tommy did. He talked about how his dad had raised him alone, how he worked hard to keep them fed and housed, how he never missed a parent teacher conference, even when he was exhausted, how he pushed Tommy to study and dream bigger than their small apartment. The billionaire listened without interrupting. Tommy finished. Richard Hartley stood up. Go home, get some rest. But sir, I need to finish. I will take care of it. Tommy stared at him. Why would you do that? Because I see something in you that reminds me of myself at your age, because your father raised you right, and because sometimes we all need help. Tommy felt emotion welling up in his chest. Thank you, sir, but I cannot let you clean the building. You do not even know how. Richard Hartley smiled. It was the first time Tommy had seen him smile. I started my first company cleaning office buildings when I was 22. I know exactly. Hound, go check on your father. Make sure he is okay. Tommy gathered his things in a daze as he reached the door. The billionaire called out to him. What is your name? Tommy Tummy? What, Tommy Chunwell? Tommy Chunai? We'll see you next week, and I might have a proposition for you. Tommy walked to the elevator in shock. His mind was spinning. What kind of proposition did this really just happen? Did God, a billionaire just offer to finish his cleaning shift on the bus ride home? Tommy could not stop thinking about Eth had heard stories about Richard Hartley. The man was known for being brilliant and ruthless in business. People said he could spot talent from a mile away. They also said he did not waste time on people who did not meet his standards. What had he seen in Tommy? When Tommy got home, his father was awake, sitting at their small kitchen table with a hand on his chest. How You feeling? Tommy asked bettered. Did you finish? Tommy nodded. Everything is done his. Father sighed with relief. Thank you, Sony. Do not know what I would do without you. Tommy sat down across from him. Dad, I think we need to get you to a doctor. We will figure out the cost later. His father started to protest, but Tommy held up his hand. Please, I need to know you are okay. After a long moment, his father nodded. Okay, we'll go on Monday. That night, Tommy barely slept. He kept thinking about Richard Hartley, about the test next week, about the proposition. What could it possibly be when Monday came? Tommy took his father to the community clinic. The doctor said it was stress and poor diet. Nothing immediately dangerous, but a warning sign. They left with some medication and instructions to rest. Tommy went back to school, took his calculus test, and felt good about it. Wednesday after school, he headed to the tower for his shift. His father was still resting at home. Tommy had insisted on covering the work until he was fully recovered. In the 42nd floor, he found a note taped to the executive suite. Dorrit had his name on it. Tin side was a message in neat red writing. Tell me, meet me in my office Friday at 5 p.m. We're something presentable. We need to talk. Richard. Tommy read it 3 times. His heart was pounding. What did this mean? Why did he need to dress up? Was he in trouble for the next 2 days? Tommy could barely focus on anything else. He asked his father if they had any dress clothes. His dad pulled out an old button-up shirt and some slacks from the back of the closet. They were a bit big on Tommy, but they would work. Friday afternoon, Tommy left school early. He went home and changed, looked at himself in the mirror. He looked nervous because he was at 4:45. He walked into Riverside Corporate Tower. Lobby was busy with people leaving work for the weekend. Tommy took the elevator to the 42nd floor. His palms were sweating. He wiped them on his slacks and knocked on the office door. Come in. Richard Hartley was sitting behind his desk. He gestured for Tommy to sit. Tommy sat down, trying to look calm and confident. He probably failed at both. The billionaire studied him for a long moment. Then he opened a drawer and pulled out a large envelope. He slid it across the desk. To me, I have been watching youth. Way you work, the way you treat this building, the way you stepped up when your father needed help. That tells me a lot about who you are. He paused. I am starting a new Project A foundation to help young people from difficult backgrounds access education and opportunity. I need someone to help me run it, someone who understands what it is like to struggle, someone with integrity. Swallowed hard. Are you offering me a job? The billionaire shook his head. Not yet. First, I need to know if you are who I think you are. He tapped the envelope. Sighed. As a test, a simple one. Follow the instructions exactly. If you pass, we will talk about your future. If you do not, we will part ways and you will forget this conversation ever happened. Mommy picked up the envelope. It was heavy. What kind of test? You will see. He stood up, indicating the meeting was over. I will see you Monday at 5 p.m. Same place. Spring. The results. Tommy left the office clutching the envelope. His mind was racing. What could possibly be inside? In the elevator, he was tempted to open it, but he waited until he got home. His father was making dinner in their tiny kitchen. Tommy sat down at the table and carefully opened the envelope. Inside was a smaller sealed envelope and a note. Then take this to 147 Mercy Street tomorrow morning. Inside the second envelope is something valuable. Is something valuable? Is it however you see? Fitter. Return to my office Monday at 5 p.m. and tell me what you did with it. Tommy stared at the note. What did that mean? Use it however you see. Fifth looked at the sealed envelope. It was thick. He could not see what was inside. His father came over. Is that Tommy explained about the meeting, about the test? His father frowned. Be careful, Sunrich. People do not give things away for free. There was always a catch. That night, Tommy could not sleep. He kept thinking about the envelope, about what might be inside, about what Richard Hartley wanted from him. Tomorrow would bring answers, but tonight he just had questions. Saturday morning came too slowly for Tommy. He tossed and turned all night thinking about the sealed envelope sitting on his dresser. When the first light came through his window, he was already awake. His father was still sleeping. The medication from the clinic had helped him rest better. Tommy got dressed quietly and picked up both envelopes. The note said to go to 147 Mercy Street. He had no idea what was there. The address was across town in a neighborhood Tommy did not know well he took 2 buses to get there during the ride. He kept touching the sealed envelope in his jacket pocket. It was thick and heavy. Whatever was inside felt important. He got off the bus. Tommy found himself in an older part of the city. The buildings here were worn down. Some had broken windows. There were people sleeping in doorways. Small store on the corner had bars on the windows. And we checked the address again, 147 Mercy Street. He walked down the block, counting numbers until he found it. It was a 3-story brick building with a faded sign that read, Mercy Street Community Shelter. Tommy stood outside for a momentous shelter. Why would Richard Hartley send him to a shelter? He walked up the steps and pushed open the heavy front door. Inside it was a large room with tables and chairs about. 20 people sat eating breakfast. The smell of coffee and oatmeal filled the air. A woman in her 40s with kind eyes approached him. Can I help you? She had dark hair pulled back in a ponytail and wore jeans and a sweatshirt. Tommy pulled out the note. I was told to come here. I have something to deliver. The woman read the note and her eyebrows went up. Pooh, must be Tommy. Follow me, please. She led him through the dining area to a small office in the back. The walls were covered with donation charts and volunteer schedules. She sat behind a cluttered desk. My name is Patricia. Run this shelter. Richard Hartley told me someone might be coming today. Tommy felt confused. You know him? Patricia smiled. He is my brother, though we do not advertise that fact. He helps fund this place. Tommy sat down in the chair across from Harry. Do not understand. What am I supposed to do here? Patricia gestured to the envelope in his handy. Think you need to open that first? Tommy carefully unsealed the envelope. Inside were stacks of $100 bills. He pulled them out with shaking hands. There had to be thousands of dollars here. He counted quickly. $10,000 exactly. His heart started racing. This was more money than he had ever seen in his life. This was more than his father made in 6 months. Looked up at Patricia. His mind was spinning. What is this? What am I supposed to do with this? She leaned back in her chair. That is up to you. Richard said to tell you that you should use it however you see fit. I'll ask you about your decision on Monday. Tommy stared at the money, $10,000. He thought about his father, the medical bills from the clinic visit. They still owed almost $800. He thought about their apartment. The rent was 2 months overdue. Their landlord had been patient, but that would not last forever. He thought about college. The application fees alone were over $500. He could not afford to apply to half the schools he wanted to attend with. This money, he could solve all of those problems, every single one. His hands trembled as he held the cash, but something felt wrong. Why would Richard Hartley just give him this money? There had to be more to it. This was a test. The billionaire had said so. Tommy looked around the office through the window. He could see the dining room, people eating their breakfast. Some of them looked elderly. Others looked like they had been living on the streets. A young woman was there with 2 small children. What did you say this place does to me? Asked Patricia, followed his gaze. We provide meals, emergency housing, job training programs, medical care, whatever people need to get back on their feet. She sighed. But we are always short on funds. The city cut our budget last year. We have been operating on donations and grants. It is not enough. How many people do you help on average? We serve about 60 people a day. Some just come for meals. Others stay in our housing program. We have 12 beds upstairs right now. All of them are full with a waiting list. What would you do if you had more money? Patricia laughed. But it was a sad sound. Where do I even start? We need a new roof. The heating system breaks down every winter. We could use more beds, more staff, better food, medical supplies. She shook her head. But we make do with what we have. Tommy looked down at the money in his hands, then back at the people in the dining room. He saw a man who looked about his father's age, thin and tired, eating slowly, like he wanted to make the meal last. He saw the young mother trying to feed her children. Kids looked hungry, really hungry. Tommy thought about his own life. Yes, they struggled. Yes, money was tight, but they had a home. They had food. His father had a job. They were getting by. These people had nothing. He made his decision, though. Moment he did, a weight lifted off his chest. He knew it was right of him, though it hurt of him. Though it meant giving up the solution to all his problems. How much would it cost to fix your roof? Patricia looked surprised by the question. About 3,000. Whined the heating system. Another 2,000. Tommy took a deep breath. What if I gave you this money, all of it, for the shelter? Patricia stared at him. You cannot be serious. That is $10,000. No, but you need it more than I do. What about your family, Tommy? What about college? Tommy felt tears burning his eyes, but he blinked them back. My dad taught me that how. You treat people when they cannot do anything for you shows who you really are. He pauses. People need help. I can figure out my own problems, but they cannot wait for a new roof or heat. In the winter, Patricia was quiet for a long moment, her eyes. We're wet to do. You understand what you were giving up, Yastami said firmly. I do, but I think this is what I am supposed to do. I think this is the test. She reached across the desk and put her hand over his. You are a remarkable young man your father raised. Uultimi handed her the money. His hands were shaking. Part of him wanted to take it back to run out of there and pay off all their bills, but he did not use it. Well, he said, please. Patricia took the cash and locked it in her desk drawer. Then she pulled out a receipt book and wrote him a donation receipt, even though he tried to refuse it. This is for your record, she said. And Tommy, what? I'm going to tell my brother about this, about what you chose to do. Tommy shook his head quickly. Please do not. I am supposed to tell him myself on Monday. That is part of the test. Patricia smiled. I will not say a word, I promise, but he's going to be very interested in what you decided. Tommy left the shelter and walked back to the bus stop in a daze. Mind kept replaying the decision. $10,000 gone, just like that. On the bus ride home, he felt sick to his stomach. What had he done that? Money could have changed everything for his family. His father was going to be so disappointed when Tommy got home. His dad was awake, sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee. How did it go? He asked. Tommy sat down across from him. I need to tell you something, he
explained.
Hartley, the envelope, the shelter, the money, and what he had chosen to do with it. His father listened without interrupting. When Tommy finished, his dad was quiet for a long time. Tommy braced himself for anger or disappointment. Instead, his father reached across the table and gripped his handi. I'm so proud of you, he said, his voice thick with emotion. Dad, I gave away $10,000. We could have used that money. His father shook his head. Money comes and goes, but character that lasts forever. You did the right thing, son Evan, when it was hard, especially because it was hard. Tommy felt the tears he had been holding back finally fall. What if I failed the test? What if that was my only chance? Then it was not the right opportunity for you, his father said firmly. Ever compromise who you are for money or success? You hear me? Tommy nodded. They sat together in the quiet kitchen. Tommy felt exhausted. The weight of the decision had drained him, but underneath the anxiety was something else, a sense of peace. He had done what he thought was right. Whatever happened next, he could live with that. The rest of Saturday passed slowly. Tommy tried to distract himself with homework, but he could not focus. Sunday was even worse. He kept imagining the meeting with Richard Hartley. What would he say? How would the billionaire react? Would he be angry that Tommy gave away his money? Monday morning, Tommy could barely eat breakfast. He went to school but did not retain anything from his classes. All he could think about was 5 p.m. WHEN. The final bell rang. Tommy went home and changed into the same dress clothes. His father helped him straighten his collar. Remember, his dad said, you did nothing wrong. You made the choice that felt right. That is all anyone can ask. Tommy nodded, but his stomach was full of butterflies. He arrived at Riverside Corporate Tower at 4:45, took the elevator to the 42nd floor, knocked on Richard Hartley's door at exactly 5 p.m. Come in. The billionaire was sitting behind his desk, the same as before. He gestured for Tommy to sit. Tommy sat down. His palms were sweating. Sorry, Chard. Hartley said, tell me what you did. Tommy took a deep breath. I went to the shelter on Mercy Street like you instructed. Day. Opened the envelope. There was $10,000 inside. The billionaire nodded, but his expression revealed nothing. Go. Oni met Patricia Shea. Told me about the shelter, about what they do there, about how they are always struggling for funds. Tommy paused. I saw the people eating breakfast, families, elderly people, but nothing. Richard Hartley leaned forward slightly. And what did you do with the money? Tommy met his eyes. I gave it all to the shelter, every dollar. For a long moment the office was silent. Tommy could hear his own heartbeat. Billionaire studied him carefully. Why, Tommy thought about his answer. Because they needed it more than I did, because it was the right thing to do, because my father taught me that helping others is more important than helping yourself. Richard Hartley sat back in his chair. Dead. Yeah. Think about keeping it. Yes, sir, Tommy admitted. I thought about it. A low T. Thought about our medical bills, our Rent, college applications, everything that money could have fixed, and he still gave it away. Yes, Sir Whitesme struggled to find the right words because at the end of the day, I have to be able to look at myself in the mirror. I have to be someone my father can be proud of. Onda. I could not do that if I took money away from people who are sleeping on the streets, people who do not know where their next meal is coming. From the billionaire was quiet again, then he stood up and walked to the window. He looked out at the city below. Do you know what this was really about? Tit was a test, Tommy said. Quietly of my character. Richard Hartley turned around. When I was your age, I was homeless. I lived in a shelter not unlike the one you visited. I know what it is. Like to be hungry, to be cold, to feel like the world has forgotten. You. Tommy was shocked. You were homeless for 2 years. My father died and left us with nothing. My mother could not cope. I ended up on the streets at 16. The billionaire walked back to his desk. A shelter took me and gave me for a day place to sleep. A counselor there helped me get into a community college that changed my life. He sat down. When I built my company and made my fortune, I never forgot where I came from. I have been funding shelters and youth programs for 30 years, but I have also been burned by people who seemed good on paper, but were really just good at pretending. People who said the right things but did not mean them. That's why I created this test. Tommy, listen carefully. Patricia is my sister. She runs that shelter. When someone comes to me asking for help or opportunity, I send them there with that envelope. Most people keep the money. They come back with excuses. Some donate a small amount and keep the rest. They think that is enough to pass the test. He looked directly at Tommy. In 15 years, only 3 people have given away all of it. 2 are the 4th. Tommy felt his heart racing again, but this time with hope instead of fear. What does that mean? It means you are exactly who I am. Thought you were. Richard Hartley opened his desk drawer and pulled out a folder. Inside this folder is a full scholarship to any university. You choose a paid internship at my foundation every summer, a job waiting for you after graduation, an immediate financial assistance for your father, medical care, housing, whatever he needs. Tommy could not breathe. Are you serious? The billionaire smiled. I do not joke about these things. Your father is being transferred to a day position, better pay, better hours, full health insurance. He can start next week. But Tommy stammered. Why? Because you passed the test, because you have the character I need and someone who will help run my foundation, and because you remind me of myself, someone who understands what it means to struggle, who knows the value of helping others. Tears were running down Tommy's face now. He did not even try to hide them. Thank you, he whispered. Do not know what to say. Say you will accept. Say will work hard. Say you will never forget where you came from. My will. Tommy said, I promise I will. Richard Hartley handed him the folder. There's one more thing. What you gave away $10,000 on Saturday, though. Billionaire opened another drawer and pulled out a check. He slid it across the desk. This is a check for $10,000 made out to you. Tommy stared at Edie. Do not understand. You proved you do not need it, which means you have earned it. Twos it for your family, for college applications, for whatever you need. Richard Hartley stood up and extended his hand. Welcome to the team. Tommy stood and shook his hand, still crying, still in shock. Thank you, Siri. Will not let you down. I know you will not. That's why I chose you. Tommy left the office holding the folder and the check. His hands were shaking so badly he almost dropped them in the elevator. He finally let himself feel at the relief, the joy, the overwhelming gratitude. When he got home, his father was making dinner. Tommy walked into the kitchen. Dad, his father turned around. How did it go? Tommy could not speak. He just handed him the folder. His father read through the papers, his eyes getting wider with each page. When he finished, he looked at Tommy. Soon this real. Tommy nodded. And there is more. He showed him the check, told him about the new job, the health insurance, everything. His father sat down heavily in a chair. I cannot believe this. We are going to be okay, Tommy said. Both of us. His father pulled him into a hug. You did this. You earned this because you did the right thing. When it was hard, they held each other and cried. Years of struggle and worry finally releasing. That night, Tommy could not sleep again, but this time it was from excitement instead of anxiety. He kept thinking about Richard Hartley's story, about being homeless, about the shelter that helped him, about how he never forgot. Tommy made a promise to himself. No matter how successful he became, no matter how much money he made. He would never forget either. He would remember the people at Mercy Street Shelter, the ones with nothing, and he would spend his life making sure others got the same chances he was getting, the same chances Richard Hartley had gotten, because that is what this was really about. Not the money, not the test, but the understanding that we are all connected, that helping others is not just good, it is essential, in that sometimes the hardest choices lead to the best outcomes. Sami finally fell asleep around 3 in the morning, and for the first time in years, he slept without worry, without fear, just peace and hope for the future. The next morning, Tommy woke up and had to check the folder on his nightstand 3 times to make sure yesterday had really happened. It was really the scholarship papers, the internship contractor. Check all of it was real. His father was already awake making breakfast when Tommy came into the kitchen. His dad smiled bigger than he had in years. "Morning," he said. "How does it feel to have your whole future changed overnight?" Tommy sat down at the table. "Honestly, it still does not feel really. Keep thinking. I am going to wake up and it will all be gone." His father poured him a glass of orange juice at his real son, and "You earned every bit of it over breakfast." They talked about next steps. I needed to choose a university, fill out the scholarship paperworkers. Father needed to meet with the building manager about his new position. Everything was moving so fast that afternoon Tommy went back to Riverside Corporate Tower. Richard Hartley had asked him to come by to discuss the details of his internship. When Tommy arrived at the 42nd floor, he found the billionaire waiting with another persona woman in her 30s with glasses and a professional suit. "Tommy, this is Helen Rodriguez. Shay is the director of operations for my foundation. Shay will be your supervisor during your internship." Helen shook his hand warmly. "I've heard a lot about your orchard. Tells me you are exactly the kind of person we need." Tommy felt his cheeks warm. "My hope I can live up to that." They spent the next 2 hours going over everything. Foundation focused on helping young people from low-income backgrounds access education. They provided scholarships, mentorship programs, job training. Helen explained that Tommy would start the following summer, but before that, he would shadow some of their programs, meet the other team members, learn how everything worked. "We want you to understand the foundation from the ground up," she said, "because eventually, we hope you will help lead it." Tommy could barely process it all. A few days ago, he was just a kid cleaning office buildings. Now he's being groomed to run a charitable foundation. When the meeting ended, Richard Hartley walked Tommy to the elevator. "Want you to understand something," the billionaire said. "This opportunity comes with responsibility. People will be counting on you, families who need help, kids who need a chance. Can you handle that?" Tommy thought about the people he had seen at Mercy Street Shelter, the mother with her 2 children. The elderly man eating his oatmeal slowly. "As Siri can handle it, good, because I am betting everything on you being who I think you are. Do not prove me wrong. I will not." Tommy promised. The elevator doors opened. Richard Hartley extended his hand. "Welcome to your new life, Tommy. Make it count over the next few weeks." Tommy threw himself into his schoolwork with new energy. He knew he needed excellent grades to make the most of his scholarship. His teachers noticed the change. One of them pulled him aside after class. "Tommy's everything okay? You seem different, better, but different." Tommy smiled. "Everything is great. I just have a lot to work for now in November." Tommy started visiting the foundation after school twice a week. He met the other staff members, sat in on meetings, learned about grant writing and program development. He also started volunteering at Mercy Street Shelter every Saturday. Put him to work, serving meals, organizing donations, talking with the residents. One Saturday, he met a boy named Kevin. He was 15 and had been living at the shelter with his mother for 3 months. They've been evicted from their apartment when his mother lost her job. Kevin was angry at the world. He had stopped going to school, stopped caring about anything. Tommy saw himself in the kid, not his exact situation, but that feeling of being proved, not seeing a way out. He sat down next to Kevin in the common room. "What are you reading?" Tommy asked. Kevin shrugged. "Nothing, just some old magazine. You go to school?" Kevin looked at him with hard eyes. "What? The point, school does not help people like USCT. Just wastes time." Tommy understood that feelings. When you are struggling just to survive, school seems pointless. But I used to think the same. Think Evan seemed surprised. "Really, Tommy said, I thought college was for rich kids, that people like us do not get those chances." "What changed your mind?" Someone gave me an opportunity, but more than that, someone showed me that education is not just about getting a job. It's about giving yourself options, about not being stuck. Kevin was quiet for a moment. Did you take it the opportunity? Tommy nodded. Best decision I ever made, and now I am going to college next year on a full scholarship. Kevin looked skeptical. How did you do that? Tommy told him about Richard Hartley, about the test, about choosing to give away the money when he finished. Kevin was staring at him. You gave away $10,000? Yes, that is crazy maybe, but it was also right, and it led to something better. Kevin thought about that. What? If I do not get an opportunity like that, what? If nobody notices me, then you create your own opportunities to you. Work hard. You show people who you are through your actions. You do not wait for someone to save you. You save yourself, and along the way you help others too. Kevin looked down at his hands. I do not know if I can do that. Yes, you can't, Tommy said firmly. I believe that, and I am going to help you over the next few months. Tommy became a mentor to Kevin. He helped him catch up on schoolwork, talked to his teachers about getting him back into classes, encouraged him when he wanted to give up. By February, Kevin was back in school full-time. His grades were improving. He even joined the robotics club. Patricia pulled Tommy aside one day. What you are doing with Kevin, she said, that is exactly what we need more of. Young people helping other young people. You understand their struggles in a way adults cannot. Tell me felt proud, but also humble. I am just doing what someone did for me, passing it forward. That is the whole point. She smiled. Richard was right about you. You have a gift for this. Meanwhile, Tommy was also navigating his senior year college applications, ECT test, graduation planning. He chose to apply to State University. He had a strong social work program, and it was close enough that he could still help at the foundation on weekends. When his acceptance letter came in March, he celebrated with his father. They went out for pizza, something they had not been able to afford in years. His dad raised his soda in a toast to my son who is going to change the world. Tommy clinked his glass against his father's. To the man who taught me how. In April, Richard Hartley called Tommy into his office. Against it, Donnie said, I want to talk to you about something. Tommy sat. The billionaire's expression was serious. You have been with us for 6 months now. How do you feel about the work? I love it, Tommy said. Honestly, every day I learn something new. Every day I get to help someone. That is all I want to do good. Because I have a proposition for you. What is it? This summer you are supposed to start your internship, but I want to offer you something different. Trey Hartley pulled out a folder similar to the one he had given Tommy months before. AM creating a new program, one specifically for youth mentorship, pairing kids from difficult backgrounds with young adults who have been through similar struggles. I want you to run it. Tommy felt his jaw drop on it. But I have no experience. I just 8, and you have the most important experience. You have lived it too. Understand these kids in a way no degree or training can teach. He pushed the folder across the desk. This program will be your responsibility. You will hire mentors, train them, match them with kids who need help. You will report directly to Helen, but the decisions will be yours. Tommy opened the folder. Inside were plans for the program budget, projections, goals, and objectives. This is incredible. But what if I fail? What if I am not ready? Then you will learn and try again. Richard Hartley said, failure is not the end, Tommy. It is just part of the process, but I do not think you will fail. I think you are going to build something amazing. Tommy looked at the plans again. His mind was already spinning with ideas. Kevin could be one of the first matches, and there were probably dozens of kids like him who needed someone to believe in them. Okay, Tommy said, I will do it. To Kesselin, the billionaire stood and shook his hand. We'll start right after graduation. We will get you an office a budget. Whatever you need. Tommy left the meeting feeling like he was floating. He went straight to Mercy Street Shelter to find Patricia. When he told her about the new program, she hugged him. This is wonderful, she said. How can the shelter help? Tommy had already thought about that. I want to recruit mentors from here, people who have been through the system, who know what it is like to struggle and come out the other side. They will be the best mentors. Patricia nodded. I know exactly who to recommend. That evening, Tommy sat with his father and told him everything. His dad listened with tears in his eyes. You are going to help so many people, he said. I wish your mother could see this. Stammy Felt a lump in his throat. His mother had died when he was 6. Barely remembered her, but his father had told him she always wanted to help people that. She volunteered at a food bank that she believed in. Giving Bakai thinks she would be proud? Tommy said softly. I know she would, his father said, and I am proud enough for both of us. Graduation came in June. Tommy walked across the stage to receive his diploma. The audience, his father, cheered louder than anyone. Also there were Richard Hartley and Helen, Rodriguez, Patricia, and several staff from the shelter, and Kevin, who had asked if he could come after the ceremony. They all gathered for photos. Richard Hartley pulled Tommy aside. For years from now, we'll graduate from college, and I hope you will come back to the foundation full time. But even if you do not, even if you choose a different path, know that you have already made a difference. You have already changed lives. You felt emotion welling up. Thank you for giving me this chance. I did not give you anything, the billionaire said. You earned it. That Monday, Tommy started his new position. His office was small, but it had a window, desk, a computer, everything he needed. Helen came by with a welcome basket, coffee, notebook, nameplate that said Thomas Chen, Youth Mentorship Director. This is really happening, Tommy said, looking at the nameplate. Yes, it is, Helen smiled. And we are all excited to see what you build. Tommy spent his first week interviewing potential mentors. He met people from all walks of life. Some had been homeless, some had struggled with addictions, some had aged out of foster care. All of them had overcome difficult circumstances. All of them wanted to help others do the same. He hired 10 mentors to start, put them through a training program. Taught them about active listening, boundary setting, how to be supportive without being controlling. Then he started matching them with kids. Kevin was his first match. He paired him with a man named David, who had been homeless as a teenager but now worked as an electrician. That had hit it off immediately. By August, the program had 20 matches. By September, it was 30. Tommy was working long hours, but he loved every minute. He saw kids transform, go back to school, set goals, start believing in themselves again. One day in October, Richard Hartley stopped by his office. How are things going? Incredible, Tommy said. We have a waiting list of kids who want mentors. I need to hire more people. The billionaire smiled. Then hire them. We will find the budget. I am not worried about money, Tommy. I am investing in something much more valuable than money. What is that? Hope, Richard Hartley said. You are giving these kids hope, and that is priceless. That night, Tommy stayed late finishing paperwork. As he sat in his quiet office looking out at the city lights, he thought about how much had changed in 1 year. 12 months ago, he was cleaning these offices, worried about his father's health, scared about the future. Now he was helping kids who felt the same way he used to feel, showing them that there was a way forward, that they mattered, that someone believed in them. He pulled out his phone and texted his father. Thank you for everything you taught me. His dad responded immediately. I'm proud of you every single day. Tommy smiled and got back to work. He had 20 new mentor applications to review and a meeting tomorrow with a school principal about expanding the program. There was so much to do, so many people to help, but for the first time in his life, Tommy felt like he was exactly where he was supposed to be, doing exactly what he was meant to do. It all started with a simple choice to give instead of take, to help instead of hoard, to believe that doing the right thing would lead somewhere good. He had been writing. Now he was going to spend the rest of his life making sure other kids had the same chance he did, the chance to rise above their circumstances, to become who they were meant to be, to change not just their own lives but the lives of everyone around them. That was the real test, not the $10,000, but what you did after, how you used your opportunities, whether you remembered where you came from. And Tommy was determined to never forget. 2 years passed faster than Tommy could have imagined. He was now in his sophomore year at State University, studying social work and nonprofit management. His youth mentorship program had grown beyond anything he had dreamed. They now had 60 active matches, 3 full-time staff members, and partnerships with 5 schools across the city. But success brought new challenges. Tommy was learning that helping people was more complicated than he had thought. One cold February morning, Tommy got a call that changed everything. It was Patricia from Mercy Street Shelter. Her voice was shaking. Tommy, I need you to come to the shelter right away. As Kevin, Tommy felt his stomach drop. What happened? As he occasionally Emmy grabbed his coat and ran. He drove to the shelter. Breaking every speed limit when he arrived, Patricia met him at the door. Her face was pale. "He is in my office," she said quietly. The police brought him in. An hour ago, Tommy rushed to the office. Kevin was sitting in a chair, his head down. He would not look up. There was a police officer standing nearby. Tommy recognized him. Officer Martinez worked with the foundation. "Sometimes what is going on?" Tommy asked officer. Martinez sighed. "We caught Kevin trying to break into a car downtown. He had tools. He was going to steal it." Tommy felt like he had been punched. Kevin the boy finally looked up. His eyes were ready. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I'm so sorry." Tommy sat down across from him. "Why would you do this? You were doing so well." Evan started crying. "My mom lost her job again. We were getting kicked out of our apartment. I thought if I could get some money." He stopped. "I do not know what I was thinking." Officer Martinez spoke up. "He is a minor first offense. The judge will probably give him community service, maybe probation. But Tommy, this could have been a lot worse." Knew he was right. If Kevin had actually stolen the car, if he had hurt someone, everything would be different after. The officer left. Tommy sat with Kevin for a long time, just sitting in silence. Finally, Kevin spoke. "I ruined everything. Did I?" Tommy wanted to say no to, tell him it would be fine. But he also knew this was a critical moment. "Kevin, you made a mistake, a big one, but mistakes do not define you. What you do next." As the boy looked up, "What am I supposed to do?" "You face the consequences. You learn from this and you do better." "But what about the program? What about my mentor? Will they kick me out?" Tommy thought carefully before answering. "That is not up to me. That is up to you. If you commit to doing better, to making different choices, then we will be here to help you. But Kevin, I cannot save you from yourself. You have to want to change." Kevin nodded slowly. "I do want to change. Was just so scared. I know fear makes us do stupid things. Believe me, I understand. But there are always other options, even when you cannot see them over the next few weeks." Tommy worked with Kevin, his mother, the court system, social services. It was exhausting and frustrating. There were so many barriers, so much bureaucracy, but slowly they made progress. Kevin's mother got a new job through the foundation's employment program. Kevin got community service. Had to meet with a counselor weekly, and he had to write an essay about why stealing was wrong. Tommy read the essay when Kevin finished it. It was honest and raw. Kevin wrote about feeling desperate, about watching his mother struggle, about thinking he had no other choice. But he also wrote about learning that there were people who would help if he asked, that he did not have to do everything alone, that making bad choices only made things worse. Tommy showed the essay to Richard Hartley. The billionaire read it carefully. "This boy has learned something valuable," he said. "Sometimes we have to fail before we understand how to succeed. Do you think we should keep him in the program?" Tommy asked. "What you think?" Richard asked back. Tommy had thought about this. A low T. "Think if we give up on kids the moment they make mistakes, then we are not really helping them. We are just helping the easy cases." The billionaire smiled. "Exactly. The kids who need us most are the ones who will stumble. Our job is to help them get back up. But Tommy, you need to set boundaries. You cannot save everyone, and you cannot let one person drain all your energy. There are other kids who need you too." It was good advice. Tommy realized he had been spending so much time with Kevin that he was neglecting other parts of the program. He needed to find balance. That spring, Tommy hired 2 new youth advocates, young people who had been through the program themselves. They could help carry the load. One of them was a girl named Lisa Shea, had aged out of foster care at 18, struggled with homelessness, but put herself through community college now. She wanted to help others. The other was Raymond. He had dropped out of high school, got involved with gangs, but turned his life around after a mentor from the program believed in him. Both of them understood the work in a way that could not be taught. They had lived it. With their help, Tommy was able to expand the program even more. They've started working with kids in juvenile detention, homeless youth, foster children, anyone who needed a second chance, or a third, or a fourth. But not every story had a happy ending. In May, Tommy got another difficult call. One of their mentees, a 16-year-old named Christopher, had run away from home. His parents were frantic. The police were looking for him, but no one could find him. Tommy spent 3 days searching. He checked every shelter, every place kids hung out. He called everyone he knew. Finally, he got a tip. Christopher was staying with an older guy, someone known for getting kids involved in drugs. Tommy went there immediately. The apartment was in a terrible neighborhood trash. In the hallway's broken windows, he knocked on the door. A man in his 30s answered, "What do you want, Ty?" "I'm looking for Christopher. I am his mentor." The man laughed. "He does not want to see you. Tell him Tommy is here. Tell him I am not leaving until I talk to him." After a long moment, Christopher came to the door. He looked terrible, thin, dark circles under his eyes. "That's to me." Felt his heart break. "Christopher, please come with me. Let me help." Youth boy shook his head. "I cannot go back. My parents do not want me." "That is not truth. They are worried," said Christopher. "Why did you leave?" Tears started running down the boy's face. "Because I am gained. My dad said he would rather have no son than a gay son." Tommy felt anger rise in his chest. Not at Christopher. A world that made kids feel like they had to run away to be themselves. "Come with me," Tommy said gently. We'll figure this out, I promise." "Where would I go?" "Anywhere. But here this guy is using you, Christopher. You deserve better." Boy hesitated. Tommy held out his hand. "Trust me, plus." Finally, Christopher took his hand. They left together. Tommy took him straight to Mercy Street shelter. Patricia gave him a bed, food, safety. Then Tommy called Christopher's parents. The conversation was difficult. Father did not want to talk, but the mother was desperate to see her son over the next few weeks. Tommy worked with the family, connected them with a counselor who specialized in LGBTQ issues, helped the parents understand what their son was going through. It was slow progress. The father was resistant, set in his beliefs, but the mother was trying. Christopher was safe. That was what mattered most. One evening, Tommy sat in his office, exhausted. Lisa knocked on his door. "You okay?" she asked. Tommy shrugged. "Some days I wonder if we are making any difference at all. For every kid we help, there are 10 more who need us. We cannot save them all." Lisa sat down across from him. "You know what my mentor told me when I was in the program?" "What?" "You cannot save everyone, but you can save someone, and to that person, you are their whole world." Tommy thought about that. Kevin was doing better. He was back in school, staying out of trouble. Raymond was now helping other kids, making a difference himself. Christopher was safe, getting counseling, starting to heal. Those were real victories, even if they were messy and complicated. "You are right," Tommy said. "Thank you." Lisa smiled. "We all need reminding sometimes." That summer, Tommy graduated from community college. He had completed his associate's degree while running the program. Richard Hartley threw him a small celebration at the foundation. His father was there, beaming with pride. Patricia and the shelter staff came. Helen and the foundation team. Kevin brought his mother, Amanda, brought his little sister, who he was now taking care of. Christopher came with his mom. Even his father showed up, standing awkwardly in the corner, but he was there. Richard Hartley made a toast. 3 years ago, I met a young man cleaning my office. He was working to help his father, studying for a calculus test, dreaming of college. He paused. I gave him a test, a simple choice, and he showed me who he really was, not by what he said, but by what he did. Tommy had created something bigger than himself, a program that was changing lives. But more than that, he had shown that one person can make a difference. You do not need to be rich or powerful to help others. You just need to care. Tommy stood up, his voice shaking. "I want to thank everyone here. You all taught me that we are not meant to do this alone. That community is everything, that helping others is how we help ourselves." You looked at Kevin, at Christopher, at all the kids in the room. "You all inspire me. Every day, your strength, your resilience, your courage to keep going when things are hard. That is what this program is really about. Not me helping you, but all of us helping each other." The room erupted in applause. Tommy's father hugged him tight. "I love you, son," he whispered. "I am so proud of who you have become." That night, Tommy drove home thinking about the journey 3 years ago. He had stood in a shelter holding $10,000, facing an impossible choice: keep it and solve all his problems, or give it away and trust that something better would come. He had chosen to give. That choice had led to everything. Scholarship, the program, the chance to help hundreds of kids, but more than that, it had taught him who he was. What he valued, what kind of person he wanted to be: someone who gave instead of took, who helped instead of hoarded, who believed in people even when they did not believe in themselves. He pulled into his apartment parking lot. It was a nicer place now his father had been able to move them with his better job, but Tommy still remembered the old apartment, the struggles, the fear. He would never forget where he came from because that was part of him. Part that made him good at this work, the part that helped him connect with kids who felt hopeless. He understood them. Because he had been the man. If he could make it, if he could go from cleaning offices to running a program that changed lives, then they could too. That was the message he wanted to give every kid. He too are not your circumstances. You are not your mistakes. Are not what happened to you. You are what you choose to do next. And I believe in you even when you do not believe in yourself. Especially. Then Tommy looked up at the stars wherever his mother was. He hoped she was proud. He hoped she knew that her son was carrying on her legacy of helping others, that the values she and his father had instilled in him were changing lives. He made a silent promise to her to keep going, to keep helping, to never give up on kids who needed someone to believe in them, because that is what love doesn't. Keep showing up even when it is hard, even when it hurts, even when you do not see immediate results. You keep showing up, and sometimes that is enough to change everything. For years after that first test, Tommy stood in his cap and gown waiting to walk across the stage at State University. He was graduating with his bachelor's degree in social work, top of his class, but more than that, he was graduating as someone who had already changed the world. The youth mentorship program was now in 12 cities. They had helped over 300 young people. Some had gone to college, some had gotten jobs, some were now mentors themselves. All of them had been given a chance to meet. Father sat in the audience. His health had improved dramatically. With better insurance and less stress, he worked as the day supervisor at Riverside Corporate Tower, now training new janitors, teaching them that dignity comes from doing any job well. Next to him sat Richard Hartley. The billionaire was 70 now, his hair completely white, but his eyes were still sharp, still watching, still believing in people. Patricia was their Tootha. Shelter had expanded. They now had 30 beds, a job training center, a medical clinic, all funded by the foundation and all inspired by the choice one 17-year-old boy had made years ago. Tommy's name was called. He walked across the stage. The applause was thunderous. Helen Rodriguez handed him his diploma. She had become like a second mother to him, guiding him, teaching him, believing in him. Even when he doubted himself. After the ceremony, Richard Hartley pulled Tommy a sidewalk with Mithe, strolled through the campus, students celebrating everywhere, families taking photos. There, full of hope and possibility. You did it, Richard said. Everything I hoped you would do. And Mortimer shook his head. We did. I could not have done any of this without you, without everyone who helped us. Billionaire stopped walking. Do you remember what I told you the first time we really talked, that you saw something in me? Tommy said. Nor. Richard smiled. I told you I might have a proposition for you. Well, now I have another one. Tommy felt his heart start to race. What is it? I'm 70 years old. I have built companies, made more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes, but none of it matters compared to the foundation, too. The work we do, helping people. He paused. I want you to take over as executive director. Tommy stared at him. What? But I am only 22, Helen. Is the director? Shay is retiring next year. Shay wants to travel, spend time with her grandchildren. And she agrees with me that you are ready. I am not ready, Tommy protested. I still have so much to learn. You will never stop learning. Richard said. That is the point. But you have something more important than experience. You have heart. You have integrity. You understand the mission in your bones because you lived it. Tommy felt overwhelmed. This is too much. What if I failed then? You will learn and try again. Harchard put his hand on Tommy's shoulder. I gave you a test 5 years ago. You passed it, but the real test is not one moment. It is every moment, after every choice you make, every person you help, every time you choose to do what is right instead of what is easy. He looked Tommy in the eyes. You have been passing that test every single day. You are ready. Tommy felt tears on his cheeks. When would I start? September. That gives you the summer to transition. Helen will train you and I will be there whenever you need guidance. But Tommy, this is your foundation. No, your your legacy. They shook hands. Tommy felt the weight of responsibility, but also excitement. This was what he had been working toward. Everything had led to this moment. Summer was a whirlwind. Helen taught Tommy everything about running the foundation budgets and fundraising board, meetings and strategic planning, donor relations and program evaluation. It was overwhelming, but Tommy was determined to learn it. July, Tommy got a call from Kevin Hay. He was now 19, working full-time at an auto shop, and he had new Tommy got accepted to community college. I start in the fall, automotive technology. Tommy felt pride swell in his chest. Kevin, that is amazing. I'm so proud of I. Could not have done it without you, without the program. You saved my life. Man, Tommy swallowed the emotion in his throat to saved yourself. I just believed in youth. They met for coffee the next day. Kevin looked healthy confidence, so different from the angry, scared kid Tommy had met at the shelter years ago. I want to give back, Kevin said once I finish my degree. Want to be a mentor, help other kids like me? That is exactly what we need. Tommy said people who have been through it, who can show others it is possible. Kevin No to do showed me it was possible. Now I want to show someone else. That night Tommy met with his father for dinner. They went to the same pizza place they had gone to when Tommy got his acceptance letter. His dad looked good, happy, healthy, living life with less stress and more security. Son, his father said, I need to tell you something. Okay, am seeing someone, a woman from church. Her name is Carol. She is a teacher. Tommy smiled. Dad, that is great. Are you serious? You are not upset? Why would I be upset? You deserve to be happy. His father reached across the table and squeezed his hand. Your mother would be proud of you. She would love what you have become. Tommy felt the familiar ache, the loss of someone he barely remembered but missed deeply. Hope so. I know so. His dad said, you have her heart, her compassion. That is her legacy living through you. In August, Richard Hartley gathered the entire foundation staff. He made an announcement. After 15 years as executive director, I am Stepan Becca, will remain chairman of the board, but the daily operations, the vision for the future, that belongs to our new executive director. He gestured to Tommy. Most of you know Tommy. You have watched him grow from an intern to the director of our youth mentorship program. He paused. What you might not know is how he got here. 5 years ago, I gave him a test. I handed him $10,000 and told him to use it however he saw fit. I've given that test to many people over the years. Most keep the money. Some donate part of it, but Tommy gave it all away, every dollar, to a shelter that helps homeless families. He did not know it was a test. He did not know. I was watching. He just did what he thought was right. Richard looked around the room. That is the kind of person leading this foundation now. Someone who gives when he could take, who helps when he could walk away, who believes in people even when they do not believe in themselves. Room erupted in applause. I stood up, his hands shaking. Thank you all for being here, for the work you do, for believing in this mission. He took a deep breath. I am not going to pretend. I am not scared. This is a huge responsibility, but I promise you this sigh will work every day to honor the trust you have placed in me. Will never forget where I came from. I will fight for every person who walks through our doors looking for hope, because I was that person once, scared, struggling, not knowing if tomorrow would be better than today, and someone gave me a chance. Now it is our turn to give that chance to others. Over the next few months, Tommy settled into his new role. It was harder than he expected. Long hours, difficult decisions, constant pressure, but it was also deeply fulfilling. In October, the foundation hosted its annual fundraising gala. Tommy gave his first speech as executive director. Ballroom was full of donors, business leaders, politicians, people who could write checks that would change lives. To me, stood at the podium looking out at the crowd. 5 years ago, was cleaning the offices in this building. My father was a janitor. We struggled to pay rent, to afford food, to keep going. He paused. I am not telling you this to make you feel sorry for me. I'm telling you because there are thousands of families in this city going through the same thing right now. Kids who are just as smart, just as capable, just as deserving as anyone in this room, but they do not have the opportunities. They do not have the connections. They do not have someone who believes in them. He looked around the room. That is what this foundation does. We believe in people when the world has given up on them. We best in potential when others only see problems. And we do it because we know that given a chance, given support, given hope, people can change their own lives. Tommy told them about Kevin, about Christopher, about The hundreds of other young people who had come through their programs. He shared success stories, but also honest failures, because not every story had a happy ending, but every story mattered. By the time he finished, there were tears in many eyes. The fundraising goal was exceeded by $300,000 after the event. Richard Hartley approached him. That was the best speech I have ever heard at one of these things. Spoke from the heart. That is what people need to hear. Thank you for giving me this chance. Me said, for believing in me. Richard smiled. I did not give you anything. You earned every bit of it. But Tommy, can I tell you the real reason I gave you that test of? Course, it was not just about the money. It was about seeing if you understood that true wealth is not what you have, it is what you give it. The measure of success is not how high you climb, but how many people you bring with you. He put his hand on Tommy's shoulder. You understood that at 17, most people never learn it. That is why I knew you were special in December. Tommy got a call that shook him. Patricia Shea had been diagnosed with cancer stage 3. Treatment would be aggressive. Her prognosis was uncertain. Tommy visited her in the hospital. She looked small in the bed, tired, but her eyes still had that spark. Do not look so sad. She said, I am a fighter. I know you are, but I'm scared. Me too, she admitted. But Tommy, if something happens to me, I do not make it. Promise me something. Anything. Promise me you will keep fighting for these kids. Believing in people. Keep being who you are. I promise, he whispered. The months that followed were difficult. Patricia went through chemotherapies. Her hair lost weight, but never lost her spirit. The shelter staff rallied around her. Tommy visited every week. Sometimes they talked. Sometimes they just sat together in silence. By March, the doctors had good news. The cancer was responding to treatments. She was going to make it. When Tommy heard, he cried tears of relief. Patricia was more than a friend. She was family. Sister of the man who changed his life, and a constant reminder of what mattered most. April. Tommy proposed a new initiative to the board. I want to expand our program to include family support services. We help kids, but often their families need help. To parents who are struggling, who want to do better, but do not know how. If we can support the whole family, we can create lasting change. The board approved it unanimously. By summer, they had launched the new program, offering parenting classes, financial literacy workshops, job training for adults, mental health services. It was holistic, comprehensive, exactly what families needed. One day, Tommy was working late at the office's door was opened. He heard a knock and looked. Upa, young man stood there, maybe 19 or 20. Can I help you? Tommy asked. The young man seemed nervous. My name is Andre. Was in the youth mentorship program 3 years ago. Tommy stood up. Of course I remember you. Please come in. Andre sat down. I just wanted to thank you. When I was in the program, I was angry at everything. I did not think I had a future. He paused. But my mentor never gave up on me. Did you? You kept pushing me to stay in school, to believe in myself. Tommy smiled. You did the work, Andrea. We just supported youth. Young man shook his head. No, you gave me hope when I had none. And now I am in college, getting my degree in education. I want to be a teacher, work with kids like me. Tommy felt the familiar warmth in his chest. That is wonderful, but there is more. Andre said, I want to volunteer, be a mentor, give back, like you did for me, like so many people did for me. Tommy came around the desk and hugged him. We would be honored to have youth at night. Tommy drove home thinking about the ripple effect. One choice, one testone moment of deciding to do what was right had led to all of this. Richard Hartley had helped him. He had helped Kevin. He would help others. Andre was now going to help others, each person passing it forward, creating waves of change that would reach people they would never meet. When Tommy got home, he opened his laptop, started writing. He had been thinking about telling his story, not for fame or recognition, but because maybe it could inspire others. Maybe someone else struggling and scared would read it and think, he can do it. Maybe I can do. He wrote for hours about his father, about cleaning offices and studying calculus, about the night his father got sick and Tommy worked alone, about meeting Richard Hartley, about the test, about choosing to give instead of take, about everything that came after. When he finished, it was 3 in the morning. He read it over. It was honest for real. He sent it to Richard Hartley. asked for his thoughts. Next day, the billionaire called. "This is powerful," he said. "You should publish this, Tommy." Hesitated I. "Do not want people to think I am bragging." "You are not bragging. You are teaching there is a different show. People, that character matters, that choices matter, that one moment can change everything." Tommy thought about it. "Okay, will do it." The story was published in a national magazine then. Picked up by news outlets, shared millions of times on social media. Tommy did interviews, told his story over and over, and something amazing happened. Donations to the foundation increased. Other cities wanted to start similar programs. Young people reached out saying they wanted to help. One email stood out. It was from a 15-year-old girl named Marioshe Rote. "Read your story." And cried, "My family is struggling. My dad works 2 jobs. I work after school to help. I did not think there was a way out. But you showed me there is. Thank you for not giving up. Thank you for proving that people like us matter." Tommy wrote back. Immediately told her about programs in her area that could help, encouraged her to keep going, to believe in herself, and he thought, this is why we do it for every Maria who needs to hear that they matter, that they have value, that their circumstances do not define them. In the 5-year anniversary of passing the test, Tommy organized a reunion. Everyone who had been part of the journey. His father came, Richard Hartley and Patricia Helen Rodriguez, Kevin and Christopher and Andre and Lisa and Raymond, dozens of kids from the program staff, from the Shelter Foundation employees. They gathered in the same ballroom where Tommy had given his first speech as executive director, but this time it was not a formal event. Just people who cared about each other, celebrating how far they had come. Richard Hartley stood up to speak. 5 years ago, I gave a test to a scared 17-year-old kid. Wanted to see if he would do the right thing when no one was watching. He paused and looked at Tommy. He passed that test, but more importantly, he has passed every test since. He built something I could never have built because he did not just understand the mission. Intellectually, he lived. I felt it, and he brought that authenticity to everything he did. The room applauded. Then Patricia stood up. "My brother likes to take credit," she said with a smile, "but the truth is, Tommy did this himself. All we did was open a door. He walked through it, and then he held it open for everyone else. That is what leadership really is, not climbing higher but lifting." Others up. More people spoke, sharing stories of how the foundation had changed their lives, how Tommy had changed their lives. Finally, Tommy stood up, his voice thick with emotion. "I do not know what to say. Sep, thank you for believing in me. Thank you for teaching me. Thank you for being my family." He looked around the room. 5 years ago, I made a choice. I gave away money I desperately needed. And people told me I was crazy. Maybe I was. But that choice taught me something, that we are not meant to hoard what we have. We are meant to share it, that we are not meant to climb alone. We are meant to bring others with us, that we are not defined by where we start, but by what we do with the opportunities we are given. Tommy. Pause. Every person in this room has made that same choice, to give instead of take, to help instead of walk away. Believe when it would be easier to doubt, and together we have changed lives. He smiled through his tears. So thank you, not just for changing my life, but for letting me be part of changing yours. That night, after everyone left, Tommy stood alone in the empty ballroom. He thought about how far he had come, from a scared kid pushing a cleaning cart to the leader of a foundation changing hundreds of lives. But he also thought about how much further there was to go, how many more kids needed help, how many more families were struggling. The work would never be done. There would always be someone who needed a chance, someone who needed hopes, someone who needed to hear that they mattered. And Tommy was ready for the next challenge, the next test, the next opportunity to make a difference, because that first test 5 years ago had not just been about the money. It had been about discovering who he was and who he wanted to be. Someone who gave when he could take, who helped when he could walk away, who believed when it would be easier to doubt. That was his identity now, not just what he did, but who he wasn't. He would spend the rest of his life living up to that, passing forward what had been given to him, opening doors for others the way doors had been opened for him, believing in people the way Richard Hartley had believed in him, because in the end, that was what the test really measured. Not whether you would do the right thing once, but whether you would keep doing it every day, every choice, every moment, for the Rest of your life, and Tommy had passed. Not perfectly, not. Without mistakes or struggles, but authentically honestly with his whole heart. He walked out of the ballroom, into the cool night air, looked up at the stars and made a promise to keep going, to keep helping, to keep believing, no matter what, because that was what love did. Kept showing up, Tommy. Would show up every single day, for as long as it took, for as many people as needed him. That was his test. His, had to mission his life, and he would not trade it for anything.